Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is February the 19th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Monday to you. Hopefully, you got that lasagna today. Hopefully, it wasn't a bad day. Like I said, my day's been good. I will say I've been recovering from one of my better food corners, which I'm about to get into. But work was fine. It was good. But yeah, the food corner. I made something special last night. It's special to me. It was something that I'd heard about and seen, but never tried. So I decided that I was just gonna say, "Fuck it, I'm gonna make it." Now, I want to give the initial shout out to Northside Yacht Club. I know longtime listeners know I've had a little bit of beef with Northside Yacht Club. That was probably unnecessary, unfounded, whatever. But sometimes you just get a bad vibe at a good place. You know what I mean? And that happens, and I gotta let that go. Anyway, I do recommend Northside Yacht Club in terms of food and all that kind of stuff. They're fine, but they had a deep fried coney that I always wanted to try. A deep fried cheese coney. I implore you to Google this, look it up, because I needed the video to learn how to make it. But essentially, it is exactly what I said. It is a coney, but they take the coney and they put cheese, onions, and mustard, and they wrap it in a burrito, and then they fry the whole thing. And I was like, you know what? I know I can do this. I know I can make this happen. So I set out to do it. And I gotta say, my eyes were bigger than my stomach. I doubled up on the recipe, and instead of making one, I made two. And I had a side of onion rings with it. And then I had a bit of a failure on the first one. And or not the first one, the second one. And I gotta say, this is my first time ever trying to wrap a burrito, and I am not a pro yet. I'm very much a novice. If I was at a Chipotle, I would be getting chewed out by every customer. So I tried to do the thing on the second one that I fucked up. It was like ripping and tearing. I tried to do the double burrito, and which just made it worse. It didn't work, and so what wound up happening is I almost had some just extra fried burrito bread, and I was like, you know what? That's fine. That'll totally work. So I mean, this was one of my favorite meals. I gotta say, I really did love it, and I can tell I loved it because I ate it all knowing I shouldn't have. Definitely, this was a thing that I should have just had the one burrito. I mean, these things are big. They're big. But I was like, I can eat two conies, no problem. They're just two conies, no problem. No, they're filled with cheese and chili. I ate way too much, and I have been suffering for the past 24 hours. But I will say it was worth it, and I'm glad that I survived the tale to tell to you. And I hope that you either go to Northside Yacht Club and get one. I also heard that if you're an Ohio local, there's Goetta Fest, and they make deep fried Goetta like that. And I'm like, oh shit, a Goetta dog or something like that? That sounds amazing. I would love to try that. And if you don't know what Goetta is, you should get on that. I feel like I've definitely had a food corner where I've talked about Goetta. And I'm not talking about David Guetta. Anyway, that's enough about food. That's enough about my life. Let me go ahead and stop yapping about that shit, and we will do our startup and get into some news. Got a bit of a true crime roundup for half the episode that we got to run through a little bit. So, trigger warning, violence, and all that. I don't do enough trigger warnings, but listeners know you're coming to this. You're gonna hear me yapping about myself and then some real life shit that's not usually fun. And I'm gonna try to make it as fun as I can. But I know it's the right thing to do to say, hey, trigger warning, people are gonna get murdered and stuff. Maybe there's another thing or whatever. I should try to do that more often. That's my bad. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry for the dead air. All right. Ooh-wee. From NBC News. 2 officers, 1 first responder killed responding to domestic violence call in Minnesota. Shooter also dead. 2 police officers and a first responder were killed in Burnsville, Minnesota, responding to a call of a family in danger Sunday morning, according to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. The city of Burnsville released a statement identifying those killed as officers Paul M. Strand, 27, Matthew Rouge, 27, as well as Adam Feinseth, 40, who worked as a firefighter and paramedic. Another officer, Adam Mediclot, I'm mispronouncing that, sorry, was taken to the hospital with non-threatening life injuries. Let me see here. I wanted to kind of read a bit of the situation at hand. According to the statement from the city, police were called to a residence at 1:50 a.m. local time Sunday over a report that an armed man was barricaded inside with family members. Evans called it that's the police chief officer, I think, called it a domestic violence situation and said there were 7 children aged 2 to 15 found inside the home with the suspect. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives said earlier on social media that it responded to a scene where there had been reports of officers involved in a domestic-related shooting. The officers had gotten there, but during the negotiations, the suspect had opened fire, killing Amstrand, Rouge, and Feinseth, and injuring Medicott. Evans said investigators were unsure of the exact exchange of gunfire that occurred between the suspect and several officers who returned fire. He added that the suspect had several guns and large amounts of ammunition and shot at the police officers from multiple positions within the home, including the upper portion and main floor of the residence. Officers also took fire from outside the home, Evans said. At least one of the officers was shot inside the home, he said, adding that officials were still piecing together whether the 2 officers were shot inside or outside. The alleged shooter was reported dead around 8 a.m., and the other family members safely left the home later in the morning, the statement said. There have been no prior calls of service at the home or regarding the suspected shooter. So, I mean, it seems like this is just maybe something that had built up and no one knew about until this moment, and then everything fucking hit the fan, and it just plays out like a really fucked up movie. At the end of the day, my condolences go out to, everyone involved here. I don't like making this shit about the issues at hand and what I'd like to see. I do that, and I do it too much, and I'm trying not to do that right now. It's always going to be sad when these kind of things happen, but it is good that at least the family wound up being, saved in the situation, it seems. And, I don't know. That's really all you can really say, I feel like, in these situations outside of that. I don't want to try to do the political spinning or talk about, the problems with society, because we got another one of these, to talk about. So, we'll just kind of move on to the next beat from here. But definitely, like I said, condolences to the family involved in here. Let me go ahead and move on to the next beat, though. Like I said, this is a bit of a true crime double dose. From the NBC News, student in custody in fatal shooting of 2 people in Colorado University dorm. A Colorado University student was arrested on murder charges Monday morning in the deaths of a fellow student and another person found fatally shot inside of a dorm room last week, Colorado Springs police said. Nicholas Jordan, 25, of Detroit, was captured by Colorado Springs police after he was located in a car, the department said on social media. An arrest warrant had been issued late Friday, hours after the bodies of a student and a woman were found in a University of Colorado Springs dorm. The school confirmed that the suspect is enrolled in the university. Let me go ahead and jump to my highlighted part. The victims were found dead at Friday at the University of Colorado Springs Crestone House residence. They were identified over the weekend as Samuel Nope, 24, a student at the university, and Celie Rain Montgomery, 26. She did not attend the school, the police department said in a previous statement. The deaths, which prompted an hour-long campus lockdown until it was determined there was no active shooter, was being investigated as homicides. I know that the police had added, though, that they know, like, we're, according to the investigation so far, that's like this was in a random shooting. They seem to have known each other, both parties. So this was like a personal, intimate matter of sorts, I guess. I don't know. If I do get any more details on the matter, I definitely would love to bring them up. But I can understand that too, because like I immediately thought of like, I feel like we covered at least a handful, about 3 to 4 campus shootings or campus related shootings last year. So I can understand that it's like, yeah, when these kind of things happen, the tensions are always high, and they just wanted to say, hey, we are on it. We were able to get the suspect. He's in custody now. And not to mention that this wasn't like a serial killer kind of thing. It looked like this is a very much an isolated kind of incident. Not that that makes it any better, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it sucks to cover true crime, really. It truly is. It's one of those things where it can be very enthralling when you're looking and listening to a story from way back when, and like it's a whole docu-series or whatever, like The Night Stalker or something. But like, I don't know, when you're talking about the shit like on the day, like, oh, this shit happened just last week, it definitely can like fuck you up a little bit. It hit maybe a little bit different for some people. I don't know. But yet again, condolences to the families, and I'll definitely keep you abreast of anything else I learn on this shooting, the situation. So yeah, let's take it a little bit international. I don't want to say it's lighter, because it truly isn't. Like we're just switching the animals, But let's move on to the next beat from the BBC. Brutal donkey skin trade banned by African Union. Animal welfare. I cannot say welfare. Animal welfare charities have welcomed an Africa-wide ban on controversial donkey skin trade. It will make it illegal to slaughter donkeys for their skin across the continent. Demand for the animal's skins is fueled by the popularity of an ancient Chinese medicine called Ijayo, traditionally made from donkey hides. So yeah, I had listened to a bit of the BBC. They had covered a bit of the story, I want to say either last week, and they had zeroed in on a person who had a donkey, and his donkey was stolen from him, or was slaughtered, and he was, minus a donkey, and he was explaining how like this was so devastating and detrimental to his livelihood. Like his family needed this donkey to live. And the donkey sanctuary that is mentioned in this article was able to provide for him and get him a whole donkey. And like, he was like, I think he named the thing like something Joy or something like that. And it was a very cute thing. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm sure to the average guy, you're just like, yeah, it's a donkey. Like, you got a little Eeyore companion, whatever. But like, no, like this really was this person's means of everything. It was like getting a new car. Like it was more than just a donkey. And it's crazy to think that like there's two sides of this, where there is a whole country of people who are like, yeah, this is like an ancient, remedy, and we need the skin of the donkey to make this a thing. But it's like, come on, like, I know, maybe this is me showing a little bit too much, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes I hear about like, I think it's like the homeopathic or, the non-traditional medicine. And I go, yo, come on, dude. I hate a doctor as much as the next guy. But like, this just feels like just snake oil. Like, what are we doing? Especially when it comes to, oh, you need to like, we need like the horn of a rhino. We need like a tiger's penis to make this thing work. Like, please, dude. Like, this is not going to make you more virile. This is not going to like make you more healthy, whatever. Like, there are animals at stake here. So to me, that's already fucked up. That's already like a bummer. Not that, I'm not a PETA member or anything, but you can understand that there's just no real purpose to this in my mind. Like, I can't square this at all. But then, going back to like, that story about the African, I think he was Kenyan, to be specific. This Kenyan man who needs this donkey to support his whole livelihood. Like, you're killing this donkey for essentially medicine. Now, I understand people, who are poaching the donkey, who are doing this, they're doing it for their own livelihood. But like, the fact that this is just a whole fucking trade, and it's just been enabled for so long throughout a whole continent, is crazy. It's very sad. It's very, depressing. I feel like no matter what angle you're really coming from. But, Ijayo is believed by some to have anti-aging and health benefits, although this is unproven. Chinese companies that make it used to use skins from donkeys sourced from China. It was specifically from like a certain kind of, I think, black donkey, and then you had to get like specific water from a specific well. Like, it was a whole thing. Like, you had to go on a whole goddamn side quest to get better. And like, okay, that's cool back then when we didn't know any better, but like, let's maybe not do that now that we have, a little bit more modern sciences and technologies applied. We don't have to like maybe fuck around with this shit. But yeah, but when the numbers of the animals in the country plummeted, they looked overseas. And, there are a lot of donkeys in Africa, but like their population has been halved kind of since Chinese companies and, the whole poaching kind of aspect has kind of just been elevated. So it's good that, there are, more protections, hopefully, and, hopefully they'll be enforced. Because it's one thing to say, hey, we're putting a ban. It's a whole other thing to actually enforce it. So, we'll see. Hopefully, there'll be more jackasses in the world. You feel me? In a good way. All right, that's all I have for that. Let's move on to our last beat. We're going to take it to the moon. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, before we get into it, let me go ahead and blast off myself. Let me take my last break, and we will end this thing. Ooh. Ooh. And this is ground control to Major Tom. All right. Okie dokie. Ooh. From space.com. Private Odysseus moonlander beams home first photos from space. A pioneering moonlander has beamed home its first photos from the final frontier. Intuitive Machines' robotic Odysseus spacecraft snapped a few selfies with the Earth in the background shortly after its February 15th launch atop the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, and we can all check them out. Intuitive Machines successfully transmitted its first IM-1 mission images to Earth on February 16th, 2024. The images were captured shortly after separation from SpaceX second stage on Intuitive Machines' first journey to the moon under NASA's CLPS initiative. The Houston-based company wrote Saturday on a post in X. On X, I should say. Or Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter, whatever the fuck I want. That shared four of the photos. So this is a bit of a SpaceX little collabo. CLPS is the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, which puts agency science instruments on private robotic moonlanders like Odysseus. These instruments are designed to collect data that will aid NASA's Artemis program, which aims to establish a crew base near the lunar South Pole by the end of the 2020s. Now, maybe this might sound a little bit familiar to you. Granted, if it doesn't, that's totally fine. We talk about space a decent amount, and a lot of people are trying to get to the moon. I know the last time we talked about, some space stuff, it was with Japan on their, their second thing or whatever. Anyway, but this was something that we've kind of talked about before, but it was a failed experiment under a different name, and Astrobiotics or whatever was leading the parade. But IM-1 wasn't the first CLPS effort to get off the ground. That distinction goes to the debut flight of a Peregrine moonlander built by Pittsburgh company Astrobotic, which launched last month atop a United Launch Alliance Vulcan Centaur rocket. They're crazy with these fucking names. But, needless to say, that one was kind of working until it didn't, and it wound up being a failed mission. So you could kind of say it seems like this is a bit of the redo, if you will, a second crack at it, and it's seemingly going better. But we'll see. I will definitely keep you tuned in on, the fate of the Odysseus. But yeah, that's it. That's really all we have for today. So if you'd like to, help out the effort, there is a way financially, you can plug a little money in. That would really help out the effort at patreon.com/Isaiah News. You become a newsie, and I shout you out at the top of the month. Plug a project if you'd like as well. Free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. And then feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Also, another great way to help out is subscribe to the YouTube. Leave a thumbs up, and you can do that on any of the platforms. Leave a comment on any of the platforms. Feel free to share from any of the platforms. It really does help out a ton. But really, just listening and, just tuning in, and that really does mean the world to me. It's really great. And that's it. That's all we have for today. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.